Almost time for hot dogs, peanuts, cold beers, and orange and black baseball. Our Giants warm-up rolls on the sports leader.
All right, we're back here on Giants warm-up Saturday afternoon, getting you set for Giants baseball on Saturday night out at Oracle Park. Landon Roop takes the hill. Young right-hander opposed by Luis Severino, the big free agent acquisition from the A's this offseason. 3 years, $67 million for Severino. Biggest free agent deal that the franchise has ever handed out, and I think it caught everyone in baseball by surprise. He's made some interesting comments this year about pitching in Sacramento at Sutter Health Park, AAA home of your Sacramento River Cats, saying, it's not really a major league facility. His ERA much better on the road this year, and so Giants have a tough assignment tonight. Severino's a good pitcher. He struggled at home, but he's been very good away from Sutter Health Park, so that is the difficulty for San Francisco this evening, trying to follow up a 9-1 win over the A's on Friday night. A strong performance from Wilmer Flores. The game of his life, 3 homers. Send them all out to left center field. J.P. Sears takes the loss. Meanwhile, Logan Webb gets the win. And I opened this show talking a little bit about Flores and not enough about Webb. 5-3 now, 2.42 ERA. He has been absolutely sensational. Leads the major leagues in innings right now. Best in the National League in terms of his F4. 10 games started, obviously. 63 1/3 innings. 55 hits allowed. How about this? Just 2 home runs allowed for Logan Webb in 63 1/3 innings. Of course, one of those came in Minnesota, and it led to a loss, a brutal loss that he took last weekend against the Twins. If not for that, he'd probably have 6 wins right now. And he's got 69 strikeouts in 63 1/3 innings. So that strikeout per 9 inning total actually up this season in a career best 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not quite walking as few batters as he did 2 years ago in that incredible campaign, 3.25 ERA, where he led Major League Baseball with 216 innings and finished second in National League Cy Young voting. But Logan Webb has been oh so good for the Giants this season. So a few moments ago, we mentioned the big piece of news that Bob Melvin gave out to Giants beat reporters this afternoon in the dugout, meeting with the likes of John Shea, Susan Slusser, Alex Pavlich, Justice De Los Santos, and so many others who do such a great job covering this team. It's Jordan Hicks going to the bullpen. It is Hayden Birdsong coming into the rotation on Tuesday evening against the Kansas City Royals. There was also a piece of news slipped in there that I find particularly interesting right now, given the juxtaposition of this Giants roster and the structure of this lineup. Gerard Encarnacion, according to Alex Pavlovich, who just put this out there on social media, Gerard Encarnacion is having his rehab paused right now. So he's been out since spring training, fractured the left index finger, or not the left index finger, the left ring finger, as he was diving for a ball in the outfield down in Cactus League play. And the Giants really didn't need him playing the outfield in Cactus League play. That's an entirely different story. But he started his rehab assignment. Things were going well. He was hitting the ball well, but he started to feel some soreness in that surgically repaired finger. And so he's going to have that rehab pause. The Giants are still optimistic that he'll be able to come off of the injured list when he's eligible Monday, Memorial Day. So I said last segment, Sunday in D.C. No, it's going to be Monday, Memorial Day in Detroit against the Tigers. That's when they can expect the big right-handed slugger back in their lineup. And it'll be an interesting position for Bob Melvin because, Gerard Encarnacion, someone who's a first base DH type, Wilmer Flores on this team right now, the team leader in home runs, 41 driven in. That leads all of Major League Baseball, tied with Aaron Judge in that category. He's very similar in terms of the profile as a player. I think that the Giants will want to get Encarnacion in the field a little bit. He'll be playing some first base, probably not any outfield, but it could mean fewer at-bats for Lamont Wade Jr., who's obviously struggled so far this season. The Giants will want to give Encarnacion some runway against both right and left-handed pitchers. So they'll be a little bit more right-handed heavy than they anticipated at the beginning of the season, but that's just the expectation for when Encarnacion is ultimately able to return. So with that, I wanted to give you a rundown of scores around Major League Baseball from Friday. We've already got some finals from Saturday, but we start every Saturday show giving you the finals from Friday, getting you caught up on what transpired around the league. And so last night, you had the two teams in Chicago matching up. It's rivalry weekend in Major League Baseball, so the I-80 series, as I guess we're now calling it. Giants win 9-1 over the Athletics. The Cubs won 13-3 over the White Sox last night. Cade Horton got the win in that ball game. Pete Crow Armstrong was outstanding. 3-run home run, had a triple in that ball game. Pete Crow Armstrong, just as good as it gets in terms of young talent in Major League Baseball right now. Exciting, flying around the bases. He's been fun to watch. Cincinnati Reds defeated the Cleveland Guardians in the Battle of Ohio last night. The Reds improved to 22-24 with a 5-4 win. Brady Singer gets the win. Despite having an ERA over 5 this season, Singer also has 5 wins on the year. Tanner Beebe takes the loss. Emilio Pagan with save number 10 on the season for Cincinnati. Phillies took care of the Pirates, no problem. Phillies won 8-4 in that ball game. Ranger Suarez continued to pitch well after he had a really rough outing in his first game back from the injured list. He's had 2 strong ones. Jose Alvarado was save number 7, the hard-throwing left-hander for the Phillies in that ball game. Yankees won 6-2 last night as Juan Soto was, of course, welcomed back to the Bronx, and not necessarily welcomed as the man out in Queens right now. Had a tough go of it with the bleacher creatures at Yankee Stadium. Carlos Rodon, forever Giant, got the win. Now 5-3, 3.17 ERA. Luke Weaver saved number 5 since taking over that role from Devin Williams, the big trade acquisition for the Yankees this offseason. Struggled mightily and ultimately replaced by Aaron Boone as he went with Luke Weaver in that bullpen. Some more scores around Major League Baseball from last night. The Washington Nationals defeated the Baltimore Orioles 4-3, and it prompted the Orioles to fire their manager, Brandon Hyde. So he loses his job as they went 3 runs on 14 hits, taking the loss. The Nationals, meanwhile, 4 runs on 5 hits. They get the win. Kyle Finnegan saved number 14 for the Washington Nationals. So Nats have won 19 games, and Finnegan is responsible for 14 saves. Tells you that they've won a lot of close ones this season. Detroit Tigers continued their incredible roll to start this season. They took it 5-4 over the Toronto Blue Jays last night. Jack Flaherty picks up win number 2. Bowden Francis the loss for Toronto. He's now 2-6 with a 5.83 ERA. Flaherty, meanwhile, 2-5. He's been that one Detroit pitcher who's been struggling this year. He's responsible for a third of the Tigers' 15 losses on the season. The Braves beat the Red Sox last night. Chris Sale now 2-2 with a 3.82 ERA, following up his Cy Young campaign. Braves won at 4-2, and Raisel Iglesias got save number 8. Rare loss for Garrett Crochet, who's been so good this season. A 2.00 ERA, one of the best numbers in all of baseball for the Red Sox since he was acquired in that big offseason blockbuster with the Chicago White Sox. But despite the 2.00 ERA, still a 4-3 record for Crochet, so not getting any run support from that Boston lineup. Miami Marlins defeated the Tampa Bay Rays at Marlins Park. 9-4 win for Miami. Max Meyer, the young pitching prospect, getting the win in that ball game. 3-4, 4.47 ERA. Now Taj Bradley takes the loss for Tampa. 3-3, 4.80 ERA now for the hard-throwing right-handed Bradley. The Cardinals beat the Royals last night in a matchup of a team the Giants will see next week. The Royals falling to 25-21 as St. Louis won 10-3. Andre Pallante picks up win number 4. Cole Reagans took the loss in that ball game. Reagans throws as hard as anyone in Major League Baseball, racking up strikeouts in an elite clip, but a 4.53 ERA this season for Reagans, former Texas Rangers prospect who went over in a deal 2 summers ago and has been really good atop that Royals rotation, at least till the start of this season. The Astros beat the Rangers 6-3. Bruce Bochy's ball club falling to 24-22. Twins continued their roll. They won 3-0 over the Milwaukee Brewers. Joe Ryan, Bay Area native, the Giants saw in a tough one last week, and he picked up win number 4, lowered his ERA to 2.42. I'll tell you, Joe Ryan might be the most underrated pitcher in Major League Baseball. No one talks about him like he's a star. He should be an all-star in my book. He is really, really good. Drake High alum over in Marin. Diamondbacks beat the Rockies last night 8-0, which means the Rockies have fallen to 0-4 since Bud Black was fired, so that fixed everything. Corbin Burns 3-1, 2.56 ERA as he struck out 10 last night. ERA in his last 4 starts for Burns under 1.00, so he's going to insert himself into the Cy Young consideration before long. The Mariners beat the Padres last night 5-1 as Kolek took the loss for San Diego. They're now 16-6 at Petco Park, where I think they started off the year 10-0 or 11-0. They've struggled of late at home. The Giants, of course, lost both games at Petco Park earlier this month. Then the Angels beat the Dodgers. The Giants gained some ground in the National League West last night as Dustin May takes the loss in that one. Angels won it 6-2 over the Los Angeles Dodgers. So when we come back, my good friend Connor Grossman will stop by. We tape the Giants Postcards podcast every week. We get you caught up on this week in Giants baseball. One of the subjects that we will talk about on the other side, the fact that the Giants are considering a rotation change. Well, they've made the rotation change. Bob Melvin formalized it this afternoon. Jordan Hicks going to the bullpen. Hayden Birdsong coming into the starting rotation on Tuesday evening. So we'll touch on that, our thoughts on why the Giants should have considered the change, and everything else that happened in Giants baseball this week. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
to the show built for the orange and black family. This is Giants Warmup on KNBR, the sports leader.
We are back here on Giants Warmup. Kerry, Crowley getting you set for some Saturday evening baseball between the Athletics and your San Francisco Giants. 6:05 p.m. Pacific time. The first pitch tonight. Landon Roop will throw it for Bob Melvin's squad, and he'll be opposed by the veteran right-hander Luis Severino, given the largest contract in A's franchise history this offseason. Can you believe that? With all the great players the A's have had come through their organization, it's Severino who gets the 3-year, $67 million contract. They've also locked up Brent Rooker. They've locked up Lawrence Butler, but there's nothing that John Fisher can do really to appease Bay Area fans, longtime Oakland A's fans, with everything that's transpired with the franchise over the last few seasons. This temporary stopover in Sacramento making almost no one happy right now. And I thought that it was quite something last night when Wilmer Flores said after his 3-home run performance in the Giants' big 9-1 win over the A's that these games feel more intense and it's always nice to beat Oakland. And then he was saying, oh, Oakland, I mean Sacramento, it'll always be Oakland to me. Wilmer Flores speaking for so many people around the Bay Area. And look, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the Giants were complicit in all of this. The Giants had territorial rights to San Jose granted to them at one point by the Oakland A's, who played a part in helping them get those territorial rights to San Jose. And then the Giants wouldn't give up, wouldn't budge on that. And then the Giants, of course, signing off on John Fisher's relocation idea with regard to moving the franchise to Las Vegas. So nevertheless, so much that we could dive into locally. We could do a whole day here on KNBR about the Giants, the A's, and their complicated, complex relationship around the Bay Area. But what I want to do right now is look back at the week that was in San Francisco Giants baseball. And here to help me do that, my good friend Connor Grossman. He writes the tremendous Substack, Giants postcards. You can get it delivered to your email inbox every single day. Connor, a model of consistency. You hear him on this show because we do our Giants postcards podcast. So each week we look back at the week that was in Giants baseball. And we start this week, Connor, with a look back at the Giants rotation controversy that started to flare up once again on Wednesday as Jordan Hicks comes in and he starts that ball game on Wednesday against the Arizona Diamondbacks as the Giants were going for the series win, much like they are this evening against the A's. He gives up 6 runs in 2 innings. He's been one of the worst pitchers, qualified ERA in Major League Baseball this year. Hayden Birdsong really had the opportunity to snatch that rotation spot if he'd come in and thrown 4 or 5 solid innings in relief, but Birdsong instead struggled against the Diamondbacks. So it is anyone's guess as to how long the Giants will stick with Jordan Hicks in the rotation. But Connor, the Giants very clearly right now have some issues in that spot that Hicks has been throwing in since day one of the regular season.
His ERA is 6.5. It's not great. Since he threw 6 shutout innings in his first start of the year, his ERA is over 7.5. Continues to struggle in the first inning. Ketel Marte swung at a pitch that was close to hitting his knees, and he still yanked it out of the yard. It's a tough break, and Hicks might tell you he's had a lot of tough breaks this season. But his ERA in the first inning alone is 12. So, Kerry, I want to hear what you think. I'll just jump in quickly and say that I think it's time for a change, whether it's temporary or permanent. You can get a Birdsong start, a Kyle Harrison start in the rotation. It doesn't need to stay this way for the rest of the season, but I think the Giants are lying to themselves right now if they think Hicks gives them the best chance to win. And I know it's always not that easy to just snap your fingers and make a change. I think contracts and circumstances dictate a lot of this stuff. You know, we couldn't exactly ship Zito to the bullpen in 2007 after signing for $126 million. So I don't think this is that. This is certainly not that. But what are you thinking when it comes to Jordan Hicks and what they need to do?
Yeah, I mean, we're at the part of the schedule, Connor, where you can justifiably make changes. And it was almost comical. We were texting back and forth about this, that Bob Melvin waited 40 games before adjusting the lineup. And it was the ultimate old school veteran manager move to say, okay, we're a quarter of the way into the season. This is something that we need to address. And now Jordan Hicks is 9 starts through this season. He's clearly not cut it in the rotation. And the challenge here for the Giants is, yes, he signed the 4-year, $44 million deal where he was promised the opportunity to be a starter, but they've got 3 or 4 other guys who are more deserving of that spot in the rotation at this moment. It's not as if they have to keep running Jordan Hicks out there due to a promise made by someone who's no longer with the organization right now in Farhan Zaidi. This is like a light version or a mini version of what the Red Sox are dealing with Rafael Devers, who apparently won't play another position, won't move and be flexible. Jordan Hicks just probably needs to accept the reality that he hasn't been good enough, and they can give it another shot in 2025, 2026, 2027. They can keep trying this thing. And, maybe later on in the season, they bring him back into the rotation. But I don't think that you can look at the upcoming slate of games and say, we have a better opportunity to win with Jordan Hicks on the mound, theoretically throwing 5 to 6 innings than we do with a Harrison or a Hayden Birdsong at this moment. And quite honestly, you look down at AAA Sacramento, I think Carson Wisenhunt is in line for starts ahead of Jordan Hicks right now. So the Giants clearly have other options. It's just a matter of, do they wait until Memorial Day, which is kind of another key point in the schedule. You're a third of the way through, and then you can say, we really gave it the opportunity. That's just 2 more starts, and it wouldn't shock me if Buster Posey did that.
Oh my gosh, these old school guys with, red Sharpie circled on the schedule. Like, as you said, okay, it's been 40 games. We are allowed to make a change. We're allowed to acknowledge that we are no longer in small sample size season. But I do want to ask, is it really as simple as putting Hicks in the bullpen? Because again, hitters have been really good against him in their first at bat. It's not a third time through the order problem. It's a first time they face him. They're hitting .357, 1 through 9. Is it too easy to connect the dots and say if hitters are good against him in the first inning as a starter, they would be good against them in their first at bat against him in the 7th inning?
Well, it's either that or you DFA a guy with $30 million left on his contract, which, the Giants could do, but I don't see that happening. And I think the arm talent is too much to give up on right now. So could they come up with a miracle injury for Jordan Hicks and give him the old IT ban that Guillermo Mota used to have when they needed to place someone on the IL? Maybe. And then
chronic IT ban syndrome.
Yeah, maybe. And then you send him back to AAA Sacramento and build him up out of the bullpen so that he gets accustomed to warming up in shorter stints and, throwing 100 to 102 instead of throwing 97 to 100 and using just one off-speed pitch instead of trying to mix in multiple off-speed pitches, which he can do out of the bullpen. He can just focus on that sweeper that gets more swings and misses than that splitter gets right now. But I don't think that the Giants can afford to just say, hey, Jordan, thank you for your time in the organization. We don't have a spot for you at all. I think that with the current roster construction, you could probably afford to send Spencer Bivens down to AAA Sacramento, bring someone else up to fill a spot in the bullpen, and have Jordan Hicks become maybe that Bivens guy in the bullpen where he's throwing every 3rd or 4th day and he's throwing 2 innings at a time, because that's a valuable role for a team that is suddenly starting to lose more games than it's winning.
I was going to say the Giants have seen a lot of value out of Birdsong being that multi-inning reliever. And again, it's not quite as simple as snapping your fingers and saying, oh, well, Hicks could be that. But that seems like a good in-between type of role, at least while he does have some stamina built up.
Can I interject on Birdsong real quick? Because we were talking about Hicks, whose ERA is terrible in the first inning. It's 12.0 or something like that. It feels to me, and this is probably anecdata and not based in reality, but every time Hayden Birdsong comes in, the first batter gets an extra base hit. Now, he's been able to get out of those situations a lot of times, but it feels like the first batter he faces, generally speaking, we saw this a few weeks ago with Jock Peterson of the Texas Rangers, just uncorks one. So I don't know if Birdsong's ready for the first inning either.
All roads lead back to the opener is kind of what I'm gathering.
Eric Miller, come on down.
Oh my gosh. So what do you, is Birdsong the move in your mind? Do you slide him into the rotation? Kyle Harrison, it would seem like a little bit of a leapfrog situation if you go with him, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think that Birdsong's the move because he's a true 4-pitch guy. And with Harrison, I think that they need to see a little bit more out of the bullpen, and he can kind of slide into that Birdsong role where he's then throwing 2 to 3 innings at a time, or if they get a short start from Landon Roop, who, hey, who knows how much longer Roop's going to be in the rotation for the San Francisco Giants. Maybe they just put both of these guys in that spot, because I think that Harrison gives them a better chance to win than Roop does at this point in his career, because Harrison's 2 best pitches are better than Roop's 2 best pitches. So I think that's a legitimate conversation to have right now. But if the Giants are just going to make one change, Birdsong being a true 4-pitch guy, being the guy who's built up a little bit more, he threw 65 pitches in Wednesday's loss. I think you can realistically count on him for 75 to 80 the next time out. That, to me, gives you the opportunity to then go out and say, okay, Birdsong throws this game with Harrison slated to throw 2 innings in relief. You continue to build Kyle's pitch count up out of the bullpen. And then at some point, maybe it's after Memorial Day, maybe it's the second week of June, you really take a good, long, hard look at Landon Roop, what he's offering you. And you say, you know what? We might need to just go with the 2 guys who entered spring training as the favorites and not Roop, who won that job down in Cactus League play, because no one remembers Cactus League play anymore.
Famously won that job.
That's right. That's right. No one consumed more Landon Roop content than Connor Grossman this spring.
Dude was Cy Young in March. I will say, looking ahead at the Giants' schedule, this upcoming weekend, they got the A's. Next week, the Royals, the Nationals, the Tigers, the Marlins. The Tigers are good, so it would have been easy to say maybe 6 weeks ago that, what a cupcake stretch this is going to be. But for the most part, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Kerry, but the Giants are playing some of the worst offenses in baseball, and I don't know how or if that would shape their decision-making. If you're looking at silver linings as you're outlining the Giants' different paths here, they've got a lot of potential options on the mound. It's just, I think it comes down to the Giants' willingness to make change. And I don't think it's so much admitting that they were wrong, but just feeling a sense of urgency and reconciling the urgency with the fact that they've given their current options since opening day enough of a run.
Yeah. And I think they do need to take a long look at their realistic expectations for the next few months ahead and what can be accomplished, because over the first 40 games, they went 24-16. I think that they'd be fortunate to go 20-20 over the next 40 games. And so they're already off to a worse start in that regard with the series sweep against the Twins and then losing 2 of 3 from the Diamondbacks. It's an uphill battle from here, and the schedule is theoretically easier, but it's all about when you face these teams as well. And they caught the Minnesota Twins, who are not really in the mix in the American League Central, when they were getting in the mix in the American League Central. The Twins rattled off, 10 wins in a row, and the Giants were a big part of that because the Giants couldn't score against Minnesota's pretty good starting pitching. And then the day that they did score, the Giants pitching staff fell apart.
Yeah, we can get into that later. Another fun 9th, 10th inning for this team. And we say the schedule gets easier because it feels like the schedule up to this point has been pretty difficult. And I talked about these upcoming series for the next couple of weeks, but then calendar flips to June and all of a sudden here come the Padres, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Guardians. 162 games, there's a lot of emptiness and fluff, but it's similarly just as unforgiving and never ending. So I'm curious what the Giants are going to do. Neither Kerry nor I really know. I can tell you they haven't hired us to make these moves yet.
Shocking. They've obviously flirted with that idea in the 9 years that I've been talking about this team in a professional capacity. I'm sure a lot of people inside that organization are looking at us as the next hires. Can
you recall, just off the top of your head, any sort of similar circumstance? I just want to say from watching this team, I can't think clearly or there's an obvious similar situation where guys have just been yanked from the rotation. I'm sure it's happened, but someone who signed a contract like Hicks signed, obviously his situation is very unique going from the bullpen to the rotation. But I feel like, at least when you look back at those championship teams, the rotation was, not only were the guys great, but there was never really, I feel like, much wavering whether or not they even should be in the rotation.
No, I think, in 2010, what did they use? 6 starting pitchers that year? Bumgarner came up. Yeah, it was like every single guy, every time out was kind of nails for that team. And they didn't really wear. There was, Lincecum moving to the bullpen at some point in that run. And that was obviously very challenging. But at the same time, I don't know. I think everyone had seen that the guy who threw 100 miles an hour was then throwing 89 to 91. Jordan Hicks is still throwing 100 miles an hour. He's just not very good with the 100 miles an hour that he has right now. So I think that presents a legitimate challenge for them, because even Tim could stand there and say, yeah, I'm not what I once was. Jordan Hicks can't stand there and say that he isn't what he once was. He can stand there and say that he's getting bad luck, which is what he did on Wednesday after his outing.
Do you put any stock into expected ERA?
Oh, of course. No one loves expected ERA and FIP, fielding independent pitching, quite like myself.
It's kind of maddening looking at this stuff. Hicks' expected ERA is 3.5. I don't know what his FIP is, but it's probably a lot better than, whatever more basic pitching metrics suggest. But any Giants fan who's watched a handful of Jordan Hicks starts this year would tell you it's not great.
No,
it's not great. So yeah, we'll see what they do. We don't know. But if it were up to us, it's time for a change. Let's move into the tried and true, the favorite segment of Giants postcards. Best and worst thing we've seen of late from the Giants. Kerry, I'll toss it to you first. What's the best thing you've seen from the Giants lately?
The best thing is very clearly Elliot Ramos's at bats over the last week or so. I think that a guy who was extremely hot during the first week of the regular season, 6 extra base hits in 6 games, fell off a cliff in the middle to end part of April. And all of a sudden he's back producing at the caliber of play that the Giants expected from him this season. He is the one guy who you can reliably say, other than Jung-Hoo Lee, you're going to get a quality at bat out of right now. And I think that's been true against righties. It's been true against lefties. He has transformed back into the player that we were kind of discussing during that first week of the regular season as, is he an extension candidate? And then it looked really good that the Giants didn't extend him. And now I'm just fine with everything that's going on. Now I'm just, kind of come to the expectation that, hey, it's May. You don't need to have that discussion anymore. You just want to see productive at-bats, and Elliot Ramos is giving them those at-bats. So what is the best thing you've seen of late?
Well, I do want to add on to what you said, because you said Elliot Ramos, and immediately I completed your sentence in my mind. Elliot Ramos in the outfield, diving, catching, everything, rolling around on the grass, looking like a Gold Glover, or maybe
it's Kevin Pillar-esque. Can I just throw that in there? It's not elite left.
Elaborate. What do you mean?
Kevin Pillar gained his reputation among Giants fans in 2019 for his exceptional diving catches, the great defensive plays. The reason he was diving for those balls is because he was a step or two too late off the bat. Like, Elliot Ramos doesn't get good reads in the outfield. So he's making these circus catches because he's putting himself in bad positions off the bat. Like, the guy is not that good in left field, and give him credit. He's catching up to these balls, and you have to do that. But Jung-Hoo Lee catches balls on the fly, and you want an outfielder who catches balls on the fly.
I will say, I think Elliot Ramos' play in the outfield is modeled much off my own play in the outfield as a young athlete, being a step or 2 or 5 behind. I will say it is hard to look at a diving catch. I find it difficult, at least, to see a guy make a diving catch and think that I shouldn't have had to dive for that. Like, sometimes it's obvious. I know there was like a weird, like, wind-blown pop-up in Chicago that ended up falling. I think it was the game Robbie Ray pitched. The Giants ended up winning. But we've seen Elliott not look so great in the outfield, and you're right. I guess when you're diving and catching balls, it's kind of an exclamation point, when sometimes you wonder, did that really need to be there? But Elliot Ramos also, when he's swinging the bat well, he's so fun to watch because he just hits the ball so hard. Yeah. It reminds me of, like, watching the Giants maybe 10, 15 years ago, when it wasn't super common for guys to be throwing in the high 90s or hitting triple digits, but you have that one guy who's just cocking it back and firing in the high 90s, and you get the little red graphic on the screen. You're like, wow,
yes.
Like, this is awesome.
That was like Eric Gagne versus Barry Bonds. Every pitch was the red graphic.
Right, exactly. And now, the reverse of that, seeing Ramos just hit ground balls, and you're like a basic ground ball to third, but all of a sudden the exit velo comes back and it's like 99.8 miles an hour, and you're like, whew, man, he smoked that. So, totally agree. Elliot Ramos has just been a blast to watch. Best thing I saw in the last few days, I'm going to grab that low-hanging fruit. Christian Koss, the little Koss that could, blasting's probably too strong of a verb there. Lining a grand slam just over the wall with the Giants down 3 in the early innings against the D-backs. Obviously, an extremely cool moment for him. I will also say that hitting a grand slam when your team is down 3 is just one of the best things about baseball. That a 3-run deficit is like, going to require multiple innings of work to chip away at, especially for anyone who's watched the Giants over the last many years. And then a grand slam just wipes it all away. I think racking the memory bank, Edgar Renteria, very famously, not so famously, had a grand slam against the Rockies in a game I was at as a kid when the Giants were down 3 to put them up 1. maybe the most memorable game I went to that no one else remembers. But Christian Koss, grand slam, first major league home run. What a spot to do it. Continued the remarkable run of wins on Robbie Ray Day, the anti-Justin Verlander. And I think Koss also has had some good at-bats with runners on base. I can't really say I'm filled with too much hope and inspiration when he takes his at-bats, but it's kind of scrappy. Maybe a capital D diet Dustin Pedroia.
With the home run, he did little to deny the obvious parallels that he is just Kelby Tomlinson 10 years later. I mean, of the maybe 5 home runs that Tomlinson hit in his career, they were all lined over the left field wall at Oracle Park, just like Koss's grand slam.
Wow.
They are extremely similar players. I think Koss takes a bigger hack at the plate than Tomlinson ever did, but the ball coming off of their bat is like the exact same sound, the exact same trajectory when they get it going good. They swing and miss the same way. It is just watching Kelby Tomlinson 2.0.
Kelby Tomlinson, what a pull. Specs. I feel like Bochy really liked Kelby.
Loved Kelby. I mean, fundamental player. Bob Melvin loves Christian Koss, and for good reason, because nothing is expected of this guy. He was the 26th man on the roster, and he's playing better than the 26th man on the roster. He's playing like the 23rd or the 24th guy on the roster. And that is all you can ask of him. Realistically, it is like you throw in a few moments here and there, you hit 215 with a 650 OPS, you're good in Bob Melvin's book if you're Christian Koss.
My gosh. Also, those Kelby Tomlinson home runs, are you forgetting the inside the park home runs? He had at least one.
Yeah, he did have one. I am remembering, though, that he took Kershaw deep on a ball that if we pulled up the YouTube video was just a carbon copy of the grand slam that Koss hit.
Wow. I will say with Christian Koss, he was the only guy when I looked at the Giants opening day roster when it hit my phone, and I'm just quickly scanning, and it's a name I recognize this guy, recognize that guy. Toward the bottom of the list, I was like, huh? Who? Christian Koss? Was he on your radar at all in spring? As you know, I followed spring training extremely closely, but I can't say I knew anything about Christian Koss.
So he was on my radar in spring, and it was because when I went down for one of my 2 48-hour trips to Arizona, I caught up with a former Giants executive standing near the dugout, and this was after a game, and he goes, "You know what? I like this Christian Koss guy." I was like, who? Dude, were you seriously watching the 7th inning of this like 13-9 game against the Royals? Like Christian Koss, you like this guy? I've never heard of him. And he goes, "I just can't decide. Is he more Arias or is he more Tomlinson?" And I was like, wow, okay. So that's where I've got the Kelby Tomlinson thing from, because he's more Tomlinson than Arias.
Right. So Farhan told you that? That's crazy.
Certainly not Farhan Zaidi, who did not make an appearance at Scottsdale Stadium this spring.
Okay. I'm going to imagine this executive's name rhymes with Robbie Mevins.
Yeah, maybe. I said former, though.
Oh, true. Yeah. True. Sorry. How dare I invoked former for current special assistant to the future Hall of Fame catcher, Bobby Evans. Let's go to the worst thing we saw. There's been some not great things going on with the Giants. I've got a few things top of mind, but I'll kick it to you first, Kerry. What's the worst thing you saw from the Giants these last few days?
I think the Sunday explosion against the Minnesota Twins. That was a particularly deflating loss. Because
implosion or explosion?
I would call all of the above the right way to describe that. It was an explosion of just horrific proportions. It was an implosion by Giants players. It was everything that you don't want to see in a baseball game for a team that had already lost the first 2 games of that series. Eric Miller, who is always reliable. Look, I think your best relievers each get 5 blowups a year. So you're going to get, 4 great relievers on your team, 20 blowups, and you have to win.
That seems like a lot.
You have to win like 8 to 12 of those games, though.
Fair.
And so, you can survive some of these blowups, but unfortunately for the Giants, they haven't survived the Ryan Walker games. The one Tyler Rogers blowup this season was a loss to the Rockies. Eric Miller's blowup comes against the Twins, and he doesn't get pulled from that game quick enough. And to me, it was just like he doesn't have it today. This is very clear. And then Ryan Walker comes in. He didn't have it either. So I think watching them lose that game on Sunday was particularly deflating because they had that wrapped up. Much like they had the game against the Angels 3 or 4 Sundays ago wrapped up down in Anaheim. Much like they had the game against the Rockies wrapped up at Oracle Park on that Thursday night. That should have been career win number 263 for Justin Verlander. 10 times the charm, by the way, this weekend for Justin Verlander.
Good
so
grief.
I think their inability to win the games where their relievers have blown up has really backfired for this team because you still have to go through an extra inning scenario and come back and win that game. You still have to score in the bottom half or the top half of your inning whenever you get the opportunity. And the Giants just haven't shown that type of late game resilience. I think they've shown early and middle inning resilience, but not 8th and 9th inning resilience.
You know, there were so many amazing things about the 2021 team. And when you win 107 games, you're winning a lot of games in every which way. But I distinctly remember one of those monumental wins in that run was when I think it was Rogers gave up a 3-run homer, or at least gave up 1 or 2 big homers in the 9th at Dodger Stadium to let the Dodgers tie the game. And then here comes Albert Pujols, former Dodger, belting one to left for a walk-off homer. Oh, wait, there's a Mike Tauchman leaping over the wall to bring it back. Momentum, if you believe in it, shifts. I don't know. Well, it certainly wasn't going in the Dodgers' favor at that point, and the Giants rally to win it in extra innings, a game that, you know, the Dodgers are going to leave the stadium ticked because they think they should have won, and the Giants were like, whew, never in doubt.
I remember that game vividly because I had the KNBR post-game show that night.
Wow.
And we were about to get 2 straight hours of Tyler Rogers rage calls saying that this guy should be DFA'd because anytime Rogers so much as gives up a few hits, people stop believing in his 7-year track record of success at the major league level. So I was all prepared to just do 2 hours of listening to Tyler Rogers slander and probably having to say, you look at the track record, the guy's pretty good. You get 1 or 2 of these a season. So, you know, and that's
going to put up your Tyler Rogers shield.
That's not the position you ever want to be in as a radio host. You don't want to have to sit there and tell every caller that they're wrong. So the fact that Mike Tauchman went over the wall, caught that ball off the bat of Pujols, who was in the midst of a career renaissance in 2021, was remarkable and saved the show that night.
Totally. I looking back at that Walker outing you bring up, I was watching it, and it was particularly brutal to watch, and not even necessarily from Walker's perspective, but I think it was Brooks Lee on the Twins had like an emergency poke with 2 strikes, a ball that just fell down the left field line. I think there was a walk mixed in, so you look at Walker, that's on him. There was a grounder hit to Chapman with the tying run on third, and it was just the classic, you know, infielder pulled his head up too early to see where he was going to throw the ball, and I think it just kicked off the heel of his glove. And if Chapman fields that, like he would tell you he could 99 times out of 100, I think they're probably getting the out at home. But it had all the makings and all the looks of a guy who's just kind of snake bit right now.
All right, thanks so much to Connor Grossman for joining today's show. If you want to catch the entire episode of Giants Postcards that Connor and I record on a weekly basis, go to Spotify, go to YouTube, go wherever you get your podcasts, and I'm sure that Connor has posted Giants Postcards there. Again, he writes the great Giants Substack, Giants Postcards. You can get an email directly to your inbox every single day about San Francisco Giants baseball and the game that happened the day before. So great stuff from Connor. Always appreciate his insights and some good stuff on the bullpen as well at the end there on Ryan Walker, his lack of confidence. Of course, Giants bullpen didn't get much work on Friday night. That's the value of the ace. That's the value of Logan Webb. He's been producing for so long in a Giants uniform, and 8 innings of 1-run ball against the A's on Friday evening was once again an exhibition of how important Webb is to this Giants rotation. Camilo Doval was outstanding in a low-pressure 9th inning, striking out all 3 A's batters that he faced on some ugly, ugly swings. So we will see what the Giants have in store. The bullpen fresh tonight behind Landon Roop, and on the other side, we will talk about how Bob Melvin could line things up in this Giants lineup that is now out against the A's. Giants going for the series win this evening at Oracle Park, looking to take the first 2 against the A's in this I-80 Bay Bridge. What do you call it these days? The Northern California series? I don't know. All I know is that it makes me sad to think that the A's aren't filling up the Coliseum anymore, much like they used to when the Giants would travel over there to Oakland. So more coming next on Giants Warm Up. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
Giants fans, first pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the sports leader.
All right, we are back here Saturday afternoon getting you set for Giants baseball. I am Kerry Crowley. The show is Giants Warmup. We've got game 2 of a 3-game set between the A's and the Giants coming your way at 6:05 p.m. Pacific time this evening. Out at Oracle Park, Landon Roop will take the mound for Bob Melvin's ball club. Luis Severino going for Mark Kotze's team. Roop so far this season, 2-3 record, a 4.73 earned run average, 42 strikeouts. Severino, meanwhile, 1-4, 4.70 ERA, and 40 strikeouts. The home road splits have been drastic for Severino, who has not enjoyed pitching at Sutter Health Park this season, but he's been great on the road so far. So something to keep at night at the large confines of Oracle Park this evening. It's time to give you the lineups for tonight's ball game, and we will kick things off with the Oakland A's. Their leadoff man tonight, Jacob Wilson, the shortstop, has been so good to start this season. The rookie hitting .341, off to an incredibly hot start with that unique stance in the right-handed batter's box. 5 home runs, 26 driven in, 2 stolen bases for Wilson. An .853 OPS for the son of the former Pittsburgh Pirates shortstop, Jack Wilson. Brent Rooker, the designated hitter, will bat in the 2 slot tonight for the A's. 10 homers, 22 driven in, 2 stolen bases for Rooker. He's got a .243 average and a .764 OPS. Always a threat to go deep, as is the man hitting third tonight for the Athletics. It's Tyler Soderstrom, left-handed hitter playing left field. 10 homers, 30 runs driven in, 2 stolen bases, a .279 average, and an .839 OPS. Quick note on Soderstrom. I was convinced back in 2020 that the Giants were making a potential mistake in passing up Soderstrom because he was the catcher coming out of high school when the Giants drafted Patrick Bailey, the catcher coming out of college, North Carolina State. Soderstrom, of course, his dad had played and pitched in the Giants organization, Steve, and he was the local guy coming from Turlock, California, Northern California, and I figured that the Giants might be making the mistake passing up the younger player with Bay Area ties, with Giants ties in his own family, and he's turned into quite a young player. I mean, you look at the 10 home runs this season, that could certainly provide value for the Giants. But he's not a catcher. He was drafted as a catcher. There was a thought he might play some first base. The A's have had to move him to the outfield. And that's not to say the Giants couldn't use an outfielder, but it does go to show you that development is non-linear, and you can't directly compare Tyler Soderstrom with Patrick Bailey these days. A player who you might be able to compare him with, though, Shea Langeliers, the catcher and the cleanup man for the Athletics tonight. 8 home runs for Langeliers, 23 driven in, 2 stolen bases, a .262 average, and a .796 OPS. One of the better hitting catchers in all of baseball. Former Baylor Bears player came over to the A's in that deal that sent Sean Murphy to the Atlanta Braves several years ago. Miguel Andujar bats 5th tonight for the Athletics. He'll play third base, 3 homers, 19 driven in, .314 average for Andujar, who's resurrected his career in with the A's organization, .779 OPS. Lawrence Butler, one of my favorite young players in baseball, he'll hit 6th tonight for the A's and play right field. 6 homers, 16 driven in, 6 stolen bases as well. He's struggling right now, got off to a good start, but hasn't been the case of late. .224 average with a .665 OPS for Butler. Luis Urias will hit 7th tonight. Former top prospect in the Milwaukee Brewers organization, who's also found a new home and performed well for the A's thus far this season. 6 homers, 10 driven in, .275 average, and an .842 OPS. So some pop toward the bottom of this A's lineup. And speaking of pop, J.J. Bleday has some as well in the 8th spot in the order. Former Vanderbilt standout was Bleday, former first-round draft pick as well. 6 homers, 18 driven in, but a .212 average, bringing down the overall numbers on the season. .693 OPS for Bleday, who I believe was a top 5 draft pick when he was taken out of that Vanderbilt program. Then Nick Kurtz, the top prospect in the A's organization, recently made his major league debut. He will bat 9th and play first base. Just 1 homer this season, 6 runs driven in, .246 average, and a .655 OPS in limited opportunities. But I'll tell you this, Nick Kurtz right now is batting 9th. By the end of the season, wouldn't shock me at all if he was hitting 4th. He has light tower power. And you have to watch out if you're in McCovey Cove. I know that he's only got 1 to his big league name right now, but he was tearing up the PCL playing down for the Aviators. So something to watch tonight for the San Francisco Giants, and definitely 7, 8, 9. Still got to be careful if you're Landon Roop of the San Francisco Giants. He throws that great curveball, but has been struggling to mix in the cutter and the changeup and the sinker. None of those pitches projecting as plus pitches so far this season. So Roop hoping to get that in order tonight against this Athletics lineup. Speaking of the San Francisco Giants, we will go with the lineup that Bob Melvin has put out there for you. Mike Yastrzemski leading off and playing right field tonight for the Giants. 5 homers, 17 driven in, and 5 stolen bases for Yaz, who's got a nice tidy 279 on average and an 830 OPS on the young season. Wilmer Flores, the DH, coming off the game of his life. 3 homers last night for Flores. 10 on the season now. Leads all Giants players. 41 driven in. That leads all Major League players. He's tied with Yankee superstar Aaron Judge in that category. A stolen base for Flores as well, although never a threat to run. 266 average and a 786 OPS. That came up, I don't know, about 50-plus points after the 3-homer night on Friday evening. Jung-Hoo Lee hits third. He's the center fielder tonight for the Giants. 6 homers, 29 driven in for Lee so far, who's just a spark plug for the Giants. Another multi-hit game last night. 3 stolen bases, 289 average, and an 818 OPS for Lee. When he's going, everything is falling. He can spray to all fields and had a double down the left field line. Just hooked it in there last night against the A's. Elliot Ramos, the cleanup man for Bob Melvin's ball club. The left fielder, 7 homers on the season. He's been hot of late, 22 driven in, 3 stolen bases, a 289 average, leading all Giants players, tied with Lee in that category. The OPS even better, 842 for the cleanup man for the Giants. Matt Chapman will bat 5th. Former Athletics third baseman, won 4 of his Gold Gloves over in Oakland. He collected that 5th with the Giants last season. 8 homers, 24 driven in for Chapman. 5 stolen bases. He brings speed on the bases as well. And a smart base runner, I will add at that. 225 average. Never going to be a big number for Chapman. 770, that's the number that you pay attention for him. That is a solid OPS right now, well above league average at this point this season. Giants have some depth to their lineup right now since moving Willie Adames down to the 6th slot in the order. Homered earlier this week. The shortstop now has 5 on the season. 22 driven in, 2 stolen bases, a 230 average. That number ticking up ever so slightly for Adames, and so is the OPS, sitting at 679 entering play on Saturday evening. Lamont Wade Jr. gets the call over at first base tonight. Struggling of late, really struggling on the season as a whole. 1 homer, 14 driven in for Wade, whose average is down to 154. The OPS sitting just above 500 at 502 right now. Giants need a lot more from the bottom of their lineup, including the 8th place hitter, Patrick Bailey. Switch hitting catcher will bat from the left side against Luis Severino this evening. Bailey, no homers on the year, 12 runs driven in, a 183 average, but just a 488 OPS. Very limited power and extra base hits from Bailey so far this season. And then Tyler Fitzgerald gets the call at second base. Giants thrilled to have him back in the lineup after he had that broken rib. He has recovered. He had that AAA rehab assignment. He's back in the lineup. He's got a new shipment of torpedo bats as well. John Shea, the San Francisco Standard, put that out yesterday. Fitzgerald playing second base for the Giants, 2 homers, 7 driven in, 5 stolen bases as well. Giants will take that 286 average and the 788 OPS down at the bottom of the order, effectively functioning as a second leadoff man for this ball club. They love that speed. So that's the difference between the bottom of the order for the Giants. They've got the young Fitzgerald, who brings great speed to the lineup, and the A's, meanwhile, have a top overall prospect in Nick Kurtz, who's their first baseman with huge power. They've cleared the way for Kurtz to take over at first base, and I'll be honest, I'm excited to see him put up some big numbers this summer. Giants will give the ball to Landon Roop, as we said. A's giving the ball to Luis Severino, but Bob Melvin does have the benefit of having a really fresh bullpen tonight. Coming off of the off day on Thursday. Giants, of course, used a ton of pitchers on Wednesday when Jordan Hicks, who made his final start for this team, went just 2 innings. He's been replaced in the rotation by Hayden Birdsong, who came in relief through 3 innings for the Giants. But then they were off on Thursday. And on Friday night, Logan Webb goes 8 innings of 1-run ball against this Athletics team. So Camilo Doval throws a relatively easy 9th inning, 3 strikeouts for Doval. Very little pressure, pitching with an 8-run lead after Flores had bashed in 8 runs in the 9-1 victory for the Giants. So Melvin can go to pretty much anyone tonight. And you look at this A's lineup, I think that there's a number of really good contact hitters, some power threats. Wilson, of course, at the top of the order, probably the toughest out right now with that 341 average. But I tell you, there's no easy pocket of this A's lineup. I think you can look down to the 6th spot in the order and see Lawrence Butler struggling. You look at the 8th spot and see J.J. Bleday not hitting all that well with the 212 average, but some of these OPS numbers significantly better than the bottom of the order for the San Francisco Giants, with Adames at 679, Wade at 502, and Bailey at 488 before Fitzgerald rounding things out at 788, coming off of the injured list. So If you're Bob Melvin, you're hoping for 5 innings from Roop tonight before you can turn things over. Giants can get 1 from their setup men, Randy Rodriguez, Eric Miller, Tyler Rogers, all available this evening before the Giants, of course, will send Justin Verlander to the hill on Sunday. Verlander going to look for his first victory in a Giants uniform. That'll be a big part of our pregame show on Sunday morning. It'll be his 10th try, is the 10th time the charm for Justin Verlander. Hard to believe that we're talking about that, considering that, Robbie Ray is 6-0 so far this season. Giants have won all 9 games that he's pitched, and Justin Verlander over the last 3-4 starts has been just as good as Robbie Ray. Not necessarily pitching as deep into games, but you can make the claim that Verlander deserves at least 2, if not 3 wins in his last 4 or 5 outings for the San Francisco Giants. So it just depends on run support, and this is a team that found some last night in the way of Wilmer Flores. It needs to find a lot more tonight for the San Francisco Giants against Luis Severino for Mark Kotze's A's team. I am Kerry Crowley. The show is Giants Warmup. When we come back, we'll give you scores around Major League Baseball from this afternoon's games. Plenty of finals from the East Coast, so very much looking forward to our continued discussion. You any thoughts on Jordan Hicks and Hayden Birdsong and the flip-flopping going on in the Giants rotation? Please do dial in. We got our man Cole Lapelt on the board this afternoon. Rafael Corral was in earlier today setting up the show. We appreciate Raf's contributions, and Cole has us the rest of the night, our game engineer as well at the KNBR studios. So appreciate his efforts. Appreciate everyone who considers dialing in. 415-808-KNBR is the number. We will take your calls on Giants baseball on the other side on KNBR, the sports leader.
Our KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader.
All right, Kerry Crowley back here with you Saturday afternoon, getting you set for Giants baseball. Giants won it going away on Friday night thanks to Wilmer Flores. Game of his life, 3 home runs for the first time in his career, all out to left center field, all about 1 to 5 rows up into the left field bleachers, including one that bounced off the left fielder's glove. So how about that? Wilmer Flores, a huge night, including grand slam, 8 runs thrown in, moves him into a tie for the major league lead with 41 on the season. Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees tied in that category. You've got one of baseball's biggest superstars, and you've got Wilmer Flores. If nobody got me, Wilmer got me. That's what every Giants fan knows. Let's run through the out-of-town scoreboard right now for the scores from games underway and those that have already taken place and have wrapped up across Major League Baseball. Bottom of the 5th inning at Citizens Bank Park right now, where the Phillies are up 5-0 over the Pittsburgh Pirates in that ball game. Alec Boehm at the plate for Philadelphia with a chance to add on right now as the Phillies have 10 hits, 5 runs. The Pirates held to no runs on 2 hits right now. Phillies with an opportunity to improve to 27-18 tonight. They'd be 9 games over 500. They've overtaken the Giants in the wild card race. Not that anyone is looking at the wild card race sitting here on May 17th. Top of the 5th inning at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, where the Guardians hold a 1-0 lead over the Reds right now. Guardians 1 run on 7 hits. The Reds limited to just 2 hits so far. So we will keep you updated on that ball game. Top of the 3rd inning down in Texas, where the Rangers are trailing the Astros 1-0. Tyler Mahle on the hill for Bruce Bochy's Texas Rangers. Giants saw Mahle earlier this season. He looked like really the best version of himself. Former Cincinnati Reds pitcher, and of course it also pitched for the Minnesota Twins. Mahle is really, to me, a true 3-4 pitch guy who can get you out in a variety of ways. Never going to blow you away with the velocity, but just the type of pitcher, kind of similar to Merrill Kelly of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Always feel like those guys who throw a little bit softer but have more stuff in their repertoire, they're going to dominate against the San Francisco Giants, and Mahle was very good when the Giants saw the Rangers back at Oracle Park a few weekends ago. Top of the 2nd inning at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, where the Cardinals and the Royals are tied 0-0 right now. Nolan Arenado stepping up to the plate against Noah Cameron, the starting pitcher for the Royals this evening. Cameron, a spot start as Seth Lugo was expected to make today's start. Former reliever who converted into the starting pitcher that the Royals have desperately needed in their rotation. He was placed on the 15-day injured list. No word yet, at least that I've seen, on the severity of Lugo's injury, but Noah Cameron pressed into action tonight for Kansas City. Middle of the 2nd inning right now at Fenway Park in Boston, where the Braves are up 3-0 over the Red Sox. 3 runs on 4 hits for Atlanta, no runs yet, and no hits for the Red Sox, who are coming to plate for the 2nd time this evening. It's Christian Cambro, Wilyer Abreu, and Trevor Story due up for Alex Cora's ball club. Middle of the 2nd inning in Milwaukee, where the Twins, the red-hot Minnesota Twins, Giants caught them at the wrong time. They're up 2-0 over the Brewers right now. Twins are now 25-20 as they ripped off a 10-game win streak, including 3 consecutive over the San Francisco Giants. A few final scores to tell you about from earlier this afternoon. The Mets won 3-2 at Yankee Stadium over the Yanks in the Bronx. Pete Alonso got the Mets on the board early with an RBI single in that ball game. Reed Garrett got the win, and Edwin Diaz got save number 10, and he did it in dramatic fashion, blowing a 99-mile-per-hour fastball past the bat of Aaron Judge, who went 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts today. So if he couldn't save the Yankees, no one could. Final on the north side of Chicago, where the Cubs defeated the White Sox for the 2nd consecutive night. 7-3, Matthew Boyd gets the win. Sean Burke takes the loss in that one. Boyd, can we call him a forever Giant if he was on the 40-man roster? 4-2 with a 2.98 ERA. An incredible bounce-back season for the oft-injured Boyd, who's been so good for the Cubs so far. Giants saw him a few weeks ago at Wrigley Field, and he was really, really tough on these right-handed Giants hitters. Blue Jays won 2-1, so they bounced back after a loss to the Detroit Tigers on Friday evening. They dealt the Tigers their 16th loss of the season. Jeff Hoffman gets the win as the Blue Jays won it on a walk-off single late in that ballgame. The Nationals defeated the Orioles 10-6. How about this? The Orioles, 15-29, fired their manager, Brandon Hyde, Santa Rosa's own, earlier today. Not sure that is going to solve everything for an Orioles team that had so many promising young position players coming through the organization for the last 3-4 years, but they never supplemented that with pitching from the outside. It makes no sense. They sent Kyle Gibson out to the mound today. He took another tough loss. He's 0-3 with a 16.78 ERA. He's the worst pitcher in baseball right now, and the Orioles are blaming their manager. This is clearly on ownership and its unwillingness to spend. This is clearly on executives in Mike Elias and everyone else in that front office who aren't identifying starting pitchers who can actually help that rotation. They're sending guys out on one-year contracts like Kyle Gibson, Charlie Morton, and it's not working. So it's no surprise that Baltimore has squandered its opportunity. And yes, I sound a little heated right now, but the Orioles had so much young talent. They were so promising, and they've turned into a complete and utter disaster because they've been mismanaged. And this is what happens far too often at the major league level. Fans are sold on a rebuild. Fans are told that things are going to get better when draft picks come up and come through the farm system, and then we'll start spending, and that spending never comes to fruition, or that spending is on one-year free agents who can't help you out. Kyle Gibson, 0-3, a 16.78 ERA. That's emblematic of the Orioles' struggles this season. Jake Irvin gets the win in that ball game. Lefty's been very good for the Washington Nationals. 3-1, 3.88 ERA. And then one more final to tell you about. Drew Rasmussen threw 6 shutout innings for the Tampa Bay Rays over the Miami Marlins in that ball game. Rasmussen gets the win. He's 2-4 with a 2.93 ERA. Sandy Alcantara comes back with another loss. He's now 2-6, 7.99 ERA for Alcantara, who of course is coming off Tommy John surgery. And this is just a really tough situation, if I'm being honest. There was a few years ago where Alcantara was probably my favorite pitcher to watch in Major League Baseball. The fastball would run up to 100. The off-speed pitches were brilliant. He ends up needing Tommy John surgery, and I'd say 70 to 80% of guys bounce back, and they at least get close to the version of themselves they once were at the Major League level. It's not happening for Alcantara. And it's tough because he was a guy come through the Marlins farm system they were very, very excited about. He went over to Miami in that deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. I believe Marcell Ozuna was in that trade back when the Marlins were breaking up their Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, Marcell Ozuna outfield. That was a long time ago, and Alcantara was just a pillar of the Miami Marlins. As he was coming up, he was going to be their ace forever. The Tommy John surgery has just changed his career in dramatic fashion. So unfortunate that he falls to 2-6 today, but really the unfortunate number is a 7.99 ERA for a young pitcher who just can't get it going right now. 3 other games on the docket this evening aside from Giants and A's out at Oracle Park. The Rockies and the Diamondbacks at Chase Field after the D-backs shut out Colorado last night. The Rockies 2-22 on the road this season. Unfortunately for the Giants, one of those wins was at Oracle Park. Herman Marquez takes the mound. He's 1-6 with an 8.27 ERA. I guess the Rockies are just going to continue throwing him out there. Zach Gallen 3-5 with a 4.59 ERA for the Diamondbacks. We're 3 games over 500, still 2 games behind the Giants in the National League West. The Mariners won last night over the Padres, and the Giants will be rooting for them once again this evening at Petco Park. Emerson Hancock on the hill, pitching prospect for the Mariners. I don't know if he's still a prospect anymore or if he's got enough innings under his belt. Nevertheless, he is facing Nick Pivetta, who the Giants saw a few weeks ago at Petco Park. Pivetta was outstanding. He's 5-2 with a 3.05 ERA on the season for San Diego. Good offseason acquisition for A.J. Preller in that ball club. The Padres now 27-16, still ahead of the Giants in the National League West. And then one more NL West team to tell you about. The Dodgers this evening take on the Angels. The Angels won last night. The Dodgers 29-16, 17-5 down at Dodger Stadium in first place in the NL West. It's forever Giant Tyler Anderson on the hill for the Angels. And how about this? He'll be opposed by Clayton Kershaw, making his season debut. Yes, back in the Dodger blue. Feels like it's been 20-plus years of Kershaw, and that's because it has been 20 years of Clayton Kershaw in that Dodger blue. He's got kind of that lifetime contract going with the Dodgers, where every year they just say, oh, one more year, you want to come back? Kershaw inevitably says yes. So those are the games on the docket for the seedings and games in progress as well that we've already told you about. Good slate of baseball this weekend as it's rivalry weekend around Major League Baseball. And it's just unfortunate the rivalry has changed here in the Bay Area in San Francisco, that the Athletics have temporarily moved to Sacramento, that they're off to Las Vegas, and that they've thrown away a really good thing that they had over in Oakland. 57 years in Oakland. What a run it was. Nearly 3 decades of interleague play between the Giants and the A's. A quick note on that. Back in 2000, I was a young kid and had just had an operation, was out of the hospital. And I remember getting home, and I was going to have to be kind of in bed for a few days as I recovered. And the very first thing I saw when I turned on my television was a game between the A's and the San Francisco Giants. And I don't have vivid memories of the game. But all I remember is it was these two Bay Area baseball teams going at one another, and I was taking in the TV broadcast at the time. It may have been John Miller, it may have been Ted Robinson. I don't know who was on the call, but I was enthralled by everything that was happening on the TV at that time. And the Giants, I pulled up the box score. The Giants won the game 18-2 over the A's that day. This was June 4th, the year 2000. This is the very first Giants game I ever remember watching on my television. Barry Bonds hit a homer. Bill Miller hit a homer. Ellis Burks hit a homer as well. Marvin Bernard doubled in this ball game. And for the Giants, Sean Estes threw a complete game complete game 2-run outing to pick up win number 5 of the season for the San Francisco Giants at the time. And the starting center fielder that day for the Oakland A's, how about Ryan Christensen, the current Giants bench coach, was playing for the A's that afternoon. So it's just a quick memory of one of my favorite games because it was a game that got me hooked on baseball. I watched the Giants throw up 18 runs, and for the rest of the 2000 season, I was hooked. I was watching Giants baseball every single day. And I don't know that I've taken more than about a week off through the last 25 years of Giants baseball. So much fun when they got together against the A's, the Coliseum. Another memory I have, just real quick, of going out to the Coliseum. I had the privilege of covering the 2019 wild card game against the Tampa Bay Rays when Sean Manaea started. The A's were the home team in that game. I think they'd won something like 96 or 97 games. The Astros were the winners of the American League West that year, and the atmosphere was raucous. 54,000 strong at first pitch. I really had never seen a major league stadium quite like that one. Of course, the A's would go on to lose that ball game. Yandy Diaz hit 2 home runs for the Rays in the wild card game. It squashed their hopes and ultimately led the A's to inevitably, a couple years later, break up their team. It was the 2021 season that was really the last dance for the Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy ball club that was so fun to watch for years for A's fans. And so it's just the way things happen sometimes. It's unfortunate, and I think a lot of folks around the Bay Area will never forgive John Fisher for what he's done with that A's franchise. So I am Kerry Crowley. This is Giants Warmup. When we come back, I'll give you a quick look at the Giants lineup one more time, maybe update you on some few scores and a few news tidbits from Bob Melvin's session with Giants reporters that we will keep you updated on. You are listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the sports leader.
All right, we're back here on Giants warm-up. Kerry, Crowley rolling with you until the start of our Giants pregame show, which is coming your way in just about 5 minutes here. Giants warm-up. We've had a fun afternoon here on the leader. First pitch coming your way at 6:05 p.m. Pacific time this evening. Landon Roop will throw it for the Giants. He's opposed by Luis Severino, the veteran who spent last season with the New York Mets, of course, former Yankee starter. So he spent a lot of time in the spotlight this year, getting accustomed to pitching at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. A little different than the bright lights of New York for Severino. Still has lower ERA than Roop does so far this season, and I feel like this one could be a high-scoring ball game between two offenses that are looking to break out. The Giants, of course, scored 9 runs last night, 8 courtesy of Wilmer Flores. 3 homers for Flores gives him a team-high 10 on the season. The first Giants player into double figures. And how about this? Wilmer Flores into double figures in home runs for the 9th time in his 13-year Major League career. What a bounce back for a player who had just 4 home runs amid an injury-riddled season last year that ended with Flores on the injured list needing knee surgery to correct some issues there. So, some significant news from the Giants organization today as Bob Melvin met with reporters earlier this afternoon, spoke with the likes of John Shea, Susan Slusser, Alex Pavlovich, Justice De Los Santos, Maria Gordado, and the whole gang down there, and revealed that Jordan Hicks is head of the bullpen. The Giants have seen enough in Hicks' 9 starts this season, nearly a third of the way through the year, and just wasn't cutting it. ERA well over 6. First inning ERA for Hicks up over 12, so he will pitch and be available out of the bullpen moving forward. How are the Giants going to fill that spot in the rotation? It's the young righty Hayden Birdsong, 23 years old, made 16 starts for the Giants last season to a tune of a 4.75 ERA. Birdsong, meanwhile, this year 11 appearances out of the bullpen, mostly multi-inning stints. He's been very good, a 2.31 ERA. Wasn't great on Wednesday afternoon against the Arizona Diamondbacks, but did have to throw a lot of pitches and did have to come into that game earlier than expected. So 3 innings, 3 runs against Arizona, gave up 2 home runs in that ball game against the D-backs that ultimately cost the Giants the series. But the Giants believe long-term Birdsong will be a huge component in this rotation. Could ultimately pitch behind Logan Webb, maybe the number 2 slot, maybe as soon as next season. But they just decided they got to get that stuff in the rotation. The 4-seam fastball, electric. He can run it up to 97, 98 on his best nights. The curveball can drop in there. It's got some 12-6 action, good slider, and a good changeup as well from Birdsong. So the potential for 4+ pitches. And that's what you need if you're a starting pitcher to succeed in Major League Baseball. It's one of the reasons Logan Webb continues to get better, because Webb, when he was coming up through the Giants farm system, was really a fastball slider guy with a changeup as well, but it was a 4-seamer, it was a sharp slider, and now he's completely reinvented himself. Going back to 2021, he went from throwing the 4-seamer to a 2-seamer. He went from throwing the 4-seamer to the sinker, and then that slider, well, it became a sweeper, and that unlocked Webb's potential at the Major League level. He was constantly iterating, and he finally found the pitch mix that would work for him. So he goes to the sinker-sweeper combination. The changeup comes with it. The changeup has been really good for Webb at times during his career. And this offseason, during spring training, he added a cutter into the mix that he's able to throw against left-handed hitters to keep them off balance. So Logan Webb goes from 5-6 years ago throwing a completely different pitch mix to right now being perennially in the Cy Young conversation in the National League. All-star caliber arm for the San Francisco Giants, the front end of their rotation, who's continued to build upon his success at the Major League level and continue to find ways to get ground ball outs. It's not always pretty. Last night, there were a lot of base runners. There often are with Logan Webb, but he rarely gives up damage. He rarely gives up the extra base hits. Just 2 home runs allowed this season in more than 56 innings pitched. That'll play. And that'll play for a while at the big league level. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Logan Webb, one of the best values of any pitcher in Major League Baseball. Remember, a few years ago, the Giants gave him a 5-year, $90 million extension, and he's outperforming that extension right now. If you were to make the case that any Giants player deserves a long-term deal, any Giants player deserves a better contract, you could make the case that it's Logan Webb who deserves it. And he's already signed the extension. He's already the face of this Giants ball club and this rotation. And so he's setting the tone. The Giants hoping that some of the young pitchers, including Hayden Birdsong, will take after him. And they're hoping that Landon Roop will take after him tonight against this tough A's lineup. So Landon Roop will go to the hill. He's got the great curveball, one of the best pitches in all of Major League Baseball. It's what can Roop do after he throws that curveball? Can he keep hitters off balance with the cutter, with the changeup, the sinker that he's trying to work in? He's too trying to become a 4-pitch guy for the San Francisco Giants, but only one of those pitches, the curveball, is elite right now. It's a pitch that puts so much stress on that right arm, but it's a pitch that he will continue to rely on heavily against this A's lineup. So, get our full Giants pregame show coming your way in just a moment. I am Kerry Crowley. That's it for Giants Warmup today. We'll be back with you tomorrow afternoon. I'll stay with you for the next 30 minutes or so, getting you set with Around the Park, Diamond Notes, and all the goodies on our pregame show on KNBR, the sports leader.